Similarly, the goals of behaviour change, or views about what must be done, are framed. Now we can hopefully agree that effectiveness isn't the only thing, and that values are also always important. So in those terms, behaviour change objectives and strategies are always value-laden. They're always framed by particular values. And like I mentioned briefly before, values exist as such because people invest themselves in them. Therefore, when values are involved, so too are interests. So it shows that there's a justice issue here. And critical questions for assessing the justice of behaviour change objectives and strategies would be questions like, who decides how this issue or approach gets framed, who doesn't, and what's at stake for each of them? So I guess what I'm trying to suggest is that there's a need to engage deeply with concepts of perceived and ethical appropriateness as well as effectiveness. It's not a terribly controversial argument. Taylor and Sunstein make a similar one in Nudge, but it isn't one that is addressed in the Public Services Commission Changing Behaviour publication that I mentioned before. And secondly, it's one that in major UK publications like the House of Lords report, it is addressed only in very limited terms. So appropriateness is understood only in relation to proportionality. How am I going for time? Yep, okay. In the House of Lords report, they did make proportionality the fundamental consideration in determining appropriateness. So is the intervention proportional to the problem that it is setting out to address? But one of the things I'm trying to suggest is that an additional consideration is the effects of the intervention beyond the behaviour which it's directed towards changing, including what values are supported and which interests are supported by this framing of the issue. So the consideration for research is how to incorporate ethical appropriateness. And one way, or in broad terms, a way to do so is to give participants the power to affect the research process and the selection of objectives in the strategy that the research is used to come up with. And probably the most, the technique that springs to mind is deliberative forums where groups of people come together to deliberate about the issues, to debate on priorities and relative priorities of different strategies.